Hello and welcome to the Autism, ADHD and Us 3 podcast with me, Jenny Lucas. We'll be talking all things neurodiversity, including late diagnosis, parenting and everything else that comes in between. This podcast is not intended to be diagnostic. I am not a doctor. These are our personal experiences peppered with research and occasionally the experiences of others. The podcast is intended as a supportive guide through the experience of parenting neurodiverse children as a late diagnosed person, hopefully bringing some relatable stories and laughs along the way. Any relevant links will be in the show notes. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome along and thanks very much for listening to this week's episode. If you're new here, I'm Jenny and this is my podcast about how having autism and ADHD affects my daughters and I. And if you're not new here, welcome along, welcome back, and thank you so much for listening to any previous episodes that you have done to so far already. So today, again, there's a bit of a theme here. Our episode is inspired by events which have taken place this week. I wanted to talk about how, particularly in the world of ADHD, it is sometimes far more attractive and appealing to do a task which you've been putting off when you should be doing something else. I wonder how many of you out there can identify with that. But this sparked in me because I was supposed to be getting ready to go out. We were all going out to go on a family dog walk. And I had a few minutes while my youngest child was getting dressed. And I thought, do you know what? This would be a really great time to take down the old shower curtain and put the new one up that's been lying in a packet on the floor of the hallway for the last 3 weeks. I mean, why not, right? 2 minutes before you're supposed to be getting your shoes on to go out the door sounds like the perfect time to put up a new shower curtain, doesn't it? But in all honesty, it was the perfect time. And I got it done, got the other one folded and ready for the bin. It was bin day, so that was perfect. And the new shower curtain was up and I was satisfied before we went out on the dog walk that I had ticked off a job that had been on the list for ages. Now, I've been walking past the other shower curtain, the new shower curtain, on the whole floor. It got delivered in a package a few weeks ago. I brought it upstairs, at least that was a start, with the idea that I'd put it up at some point. And I've been walking past it, just ignoring it for some time now. And it was literally a 2-minute job, as demonstrated by the fact that I did it while my kid was getting dressed before we went out. But it was not until that moment where some might say it was an inappropriate moment to choose, where I thought, this would be a great time, fuck it, let's put the shower curtain up now, why not? It occurs to me that I've always been like that. I can always squeeze in 2 or 3 little tasks into the time that it should take me to do one, if I am on the cusp of supposed to be doing something else. And I was always that person that was the night before homework was due in, the night before an assignment was due at uni, I'd be lastminute.com. And I did try and prep and know that this was my way of working and try and amend things for myself. But I just couldn't get the impetus to do things way in advance. And as a musician, I really struggled with the idea of practice because that instant gratification of I want to be able to do it now and I don't want to have to work hard to get it. It was just it's overwhelming, that sort of sensation of, I don't want to have to do it 100 times before I then do it right. I want to be able to do it right now. And I see that in my kids so badly. And in particular, my little one, she won't even start doing something new because she knows she won't be perfect at it instantly, and that is a real hurdle for her. But in terms of doing tasks, I see this in them as well. They really struggle with that task initiation unless they should be doing something else, and then they might have the impetus to do something that they shouldn't be doing at that time, and it's really fascinating to watch. I've done a little bit of research into this and I found that this is actually called last-minute propulsion, which is fascinating. It says, interestingly, for some people with ADHD, putting off things until the very last minute can create an emergency type situation, an urgency of sorts that helps propel them forward to successfully get the job done. And I have heard this before. I know that with ADHD we have an interest-based nervous system. So we only sort of have the compulsion to do stuff that we know in advance that we're going to enjoy, or that we're interested in. So if we're hyper-focused on a particular topic, we can like get right into the nitty-gritty about stuff. But the idea of this last-minute propulsion almost needs to be an emergency situation before something gets done. And it's that idea, isn't it? There's the old joke of, you know, if you want to get your house cleaned, invite a friend over and tell them to be there in 30 minutes. Or, you know, my house gets its best clean when someone phones up and says they're going to be there within an hour. And for me, that's true. I absolutely loathe cleaning. I've probably mentioned that before. And the only way I can get it done is if I've got an actual reason to clean. And that reason is usually my in-laws are coming or someone is coming. So, my husband and I went out this week and I knew that our babysitter was coming. And so, you know, you start to look round your house with the eyes of somebody else and think, wow, if I went into a house and it looked like this, I'd probably be a bit disgusted. So then, you know, you start to do a bit of cleaning and bits and bobs. And I don't know if that is just unique to me. I'm hoping that there's some other people out there nodding along going, yeah, I know what you're talking about, Jenny. That is me too. So yeah, that sense of urgency to be able to get stuff done. But yet the idea of doing a task when I should be doing something else, it's just really novel and appealing. So I work from home most of the time and I find that I am more able to get my laundry done because I'm doing it when I should be working. Now, in the grand scheme of things, if I was in an office, I'd be taking plenty of breaks during the day. So spending 10 minutes hanging my washing out in the places that I need to hang it is no like great shakes. It's not like super naughty. But my brain's like, we should be working right now. So this is the perfect time to do some laundry. And I mean, it works for me because my laundry's getting done and no one's complaining that they haven't got any school uniform to wear. So, you know what, I'm going to stick with it for now. But I'd be fascinated to know if there's anybody else out there that thinks, yeah, I end up doing things when I really shouldn't be. Like, I end up doing a deep clean of the oven like 10 minutes before I'm due to go and pick the kids up from school or something, you know, anything along those lines. Please do let me know. But I see this idea particularly with the girls, the sense of urgency on school mornings. And we have done all sorts of different systems to try and get school mornings in a bit more of a flow. And I think we're kind of getting there. My oldest one is really good and she has an alarm. Generally, she will get up for the alarm, depending on how she's feeling for school. Generally, she is able to sort of motivate herself and she's got a list of things that she knows she needs to do in the morning, and she will, the night before, she'll set out her school uniform and her skincare and, she tends to make a packed lunch and things the night before. So she's generally got into a bit of a groove. She's scaffolded life enough for herself to be able to follow a routine most times in the morning to be able to get out the door. Now, when she was younger, what really motivated her, if she was really struggling with getting dressed in the morning, sometimes I would say, do you want to have a race with mummy? And so she would race me to put our clothes on, and I always let her win, obviously. But that idea of like turning it into a bit of a competition really worked for her. She loved that. She was like, yes, I do want to beat you and I'm going to get dressed first. And just that was enough to sort of propel her forward then into doing the next, oh, now I need to go and get breakfast or now I need to brush my teeth or whatever. And that was enough to get her going most of the time. Now that absolutely does not work with my youngest child at all. I cannot tell you my disappointment when I found out that that was not going to be a motivator for her. That turns her off. If I say anything to her about turning it into competition, she immediately shuts down. And that is the opposite of a motivator for her. So we have to find different ways to get the little one to do what she needs to do. And I tend to find that that is sort of not through direct tasking. So it's through giving her options. Do you want to get dressed upstairs or downstairs? Or do you want mummy to help you get your clothes out? Or do you want to get them out? Like, giving options works a bit better for her. And just this week, she's kind of following in her sister's lead and she has written herself a list. Now, she has got a list. She's got what she's called a morning routine and an evening routine. She's written it out and she's stuck it on her bedroom wall and it's been there for months. And yet she doesn't follow it. We also subscribe to the June app, which I'll tell you more about at another time if you're interested, which is not a cheap subscription, but it kind of gamifies tasks and chores. So you can put on there a list of different jobs that you want your kids to do. They have an app on their device that they can use that sees when these things have been assigned, and then when they tick them off and complete them, they will get June coins, not real money, which they can then put towards rewards that they can buy on the app. They get pets that they look after, so they can feed those pets and buy food for them and stuff, blah, blah, blah. And that works quite well for my oldest. That initially worked quite well for my youngest, and now that is just another chore to complete. It's not working so well for her. But just last night, she's written out a list, and this time she's put it in a notebook. And she's not tearing it out. She said it will be much easier for me to see this. And she started copying her sister's example, which I am so grateful for, where she is now getting her clothes out the night before. And she sets an alarm on her iPad. She has autonomy over that. She's decided she's going to have the iPad not beside the bed, so then she has to get out of bed to turn it off. And she's putting her list in the book on top of her clothes so she can carry it around with her and hopefully, in her words, know what she's got to do next, and she won't forget because it will be there in front of her, because she genuinely struggles more with not just task initiation, but remembering. She has no real concept of time, but she also hates to be prompted. So she's a tricky little pickle. They've got a little alternating list of jobs that they do in the mornings, and just to try and build some independence in with them. And she will never remember when it's her day to get the school waters ready or feed the dog or do the dishwasher, whatever it is. And yet she hates it when I say, don't forget to do your dishwasher. I know, Mummy! And I get this like torrent of abuse from her because I've dared to remind her of something that she's clearly forgotten about. So she is a tricky pickle to work with in terms of supporting her and helping her grow her independence and actually getting her to do the things that she needs to do to get out the door. But anyway, she's come up with this plan for herself where she's written it on the list, and it worked so far this morning. So that has been really good. One thing that I've found that hasn't been beneficial, and I've actually changed the way that I parent, is creating a sense of angst or anxiety. So I've come to accept the fact that when it comes to getting tasks done, in particular with the school run, that it's never going to run particularly smoothly, and I've had to adjust my expectations in so much as if we're running a little bit late, me flapping about us running late and therefore causing them to feel more anxious doesn't actually help the situation and just creates shame and anxiety for them. So I try really hard to build in gentle reminders, 5 minutes that we need to be getting our shoes on, make sure, and also modifying the way that I'm speaking to them. And it's not perfect, and I'm not brilliant at it, and I also flap and, do sometimes lose it when I've got my own sort of responsibilities or time crunch factors that I'm working with. But for a long time, we noticed that the little one would really panic about being late to things, particularly if she had a club. She would be like, are we going to be late? That would be our first question as soon as I'd be saying it's time to get ready. Are we late? Are we going to be late? And we realised we'd created this little internal sense of panic, which was actually not beneficial because it wasn't helping her understand time anymore. It was just freaking her out about the fact that we were going to be late everywhere, and therefore she'd shut down and not want to do anything because she got this sense of going to be late. So we try and be mindful about the fact that this is something that they struggle with, and that they need a bit of scaffolding with, and actually what they need more is acceptance so that they don't feel panicked when they've got to get things done. When it comes to doing tasks with the kids though, sometimes I really struggle with the fact that I have to be their executive function and my executive function, because my executive function does not function well. So therefore having to have responsibility for other human beings is a real challenge. In all honesty, it's a real challenge. And with all of this comes the sense of having some sort of acceptance for the fact that, one, it's just something that we struggle with and we all bloody well wish it was different, but there is nothing we can do to change our brains. So self-acceptance is really important. And two, some days it's just a shit show. Some days it just doesn't work. And again, we have to have a sense of self-acceptance for that too. Because what I'm trying to do with the girls, and if you've got kids out there, hopefully it's probably a similar story, is try and help them understand how their brains work. Find ways to navigate the world with the ways that their brains work, and try not to build up this accumulated sense of shame and failure that certainly I seem to have acquired as an adult, or through my life to the point where I'm an adult, allegedly, through sort of berating myself for not being able to do things or not being very good at things, and taking on other people's sort of accumulated shame and judgments. And I really don't want them to have that. So we try and have a level of self-acceptance. And they do beat themselves up about things, and they do have a very strong sense of wanting to do the right thing. And, you know, they both go through sort of times where they don't feel adequate, they don't feel good enough, they wish things were different for them. But we are trying to navigate that with a sense of understanding and acceptance, so that they just are able to be hopefully more confident in themselves in the world. But I'd be really interested to know how you out there cope with tasks and getting tasks done. Does the list thing work for you? Do you have an app that helps you? I know that there's a few apps out there that are designed for ADHD brains in order to like gamify getting things done. Sometimes I have found personally that doing something for my future self really helps. So that's a little bit of a reframe that I use in terms of getting something done. Or future me will be dead chuffed if I've hung the washing out now and I don't have to do it when I get in from the school run. Or whatever, future me will be really happy that I have made the bed this morning. When I get into bed tonight, that's going to feel really nice. And I sort of use myself as a little helper. Sometimes if I'm really struggling to get something done, I will say little mantras like, I deserve to live in a clean space. I deserve to live in an organised space. I deserve XYZ. And again, it kind of comes back to that self-love, self-appreciation, self-acceptance that I just feel is so key in this sort of self-discovery, late discovery, neurodivergent journey that I find myself on. And I think it's really key for other people, you out there listening, that if you're not already in a place of working towards self-acceptance, and it might sound a bit woo-woo and a bit out there, like blah, blah, blah. It genuinely, I was also that person, and I am a reformed one of those people. It genuinely changes your outlook on life and changes your mindset, and really changes how happy you are with your life and how much more you can get done. It honestly does. That sort of sense of, I deserve nice things, I deserve good things, I deserve to look after myself. Because once you deserve to look after yourself and you start doing it, you're then more able to look after others. But I will bang on about that in another episode. That is not for now. But just those two things for me. So my future self will thank me for this, and I deserve to XYZ. Sometimes really motivate me to get things done when I really don't want to get things done. And actually, my eldest has now started using, future me will be really grateful if I get in the shower now and wash my hair and get into my cosy pyjamas. Future me I'll be grateful that in 2 hours' time I don't still have to get in the shower. And that's really nice because that works for her. Haven't really tried working on it with the little one yet. It's something that I'll probably introduce to her a little bit later on. The concept of sort of future self is a bit much for her at the moment, but it's something that I think I will definitely introduce to her. And actually also a reframe that has come from a lovely online friend, Shauna, the idea that we need maintenance as humans. So whether that is moving our bodies or whether that is using that as motivation to nourish our bodies, eating in some way, we deserve to maintain ourselves so that we can still function in a happy and healthy way. So that's just something else that for me personally, I will sometimes use in order to get myself moving when I feel stuck, to get stuff done. And it could be something as simple as, I need to eat. I don't know what it is I want to eat. Nothing feels appealing to me. And then it's that kind of, do you know what, fed is best. Just go and pick the first thing that even remotely appeals to you in the kitchen. And then you can go from there. And you'd be surprised once you've got food in your body, if you haven't eaten for a while, how much easier some other stuff becomes. because you don't realise how difficult it is when your brain is suffering from hunger and you can't get any other jobs done because you've not fueled your body enough. So that is it for today. I'd love to know, like I said, if you can leave me a comment or get in touch with me through my social media in some way. I'll put contact details in the show notes. How does task initiation work for you? Do you have any sort of amazing magic tips that sometimes work for you, that work for your kids? I'd be really interested to talk about this a little bit more and to share some more stuff on social media about it, because it's so individual, but there are definitely some general things out there that can help us get going, because it is something we struggle with. And like I was talking about in the last episode, task paralysis, it's a big thing, you know, it's an unseen and invisible thing, and people sometimes look at you, neurotypical people, with incredulously being like, well, how can you not do that, or how can you struggle with that? And it's one of those invisible barriers that's really difficult to explain to people that don't experience it, because it just sounds like you're being lazy, and I don't believe there is such a thing as laziness, to be honest with you. But anyway, thank you so much for listening today. I absolutely appreciate every second that you spend listening to my voice. So thank you for spending some time with me today, and hopefully I'll be speaking to you on the next episode. Take care.